Welcome. Here with me today is Sergej Kreso and also joining Robert Šoko from Berlin. Hello, welcome, Robert. We're going to talk about the movie that you both made, and we're very delighted to talk to you. And the movie is Here We Move, Here We Groove. So let me start with you, Sergej. You have followed Robert for quite some time, I think almost 4 years or something. What gave you the inspiration to do so?
I wanted to make a movie about Balkan Beats for years, because it was in the beginning of this century a huge thing. All dance podia had Balkan Beats events in Amsterdam, Berlin, London. And I was pretty surprised that that kind of music that mixed Balkan music with dance and pop genres had such success here in the West.
Why were you surprised?
Because this Balkan traditional music on the Balkan is the music of old generation, of grandmas and grandpas. It's more music of the village. And my generation didn't want to play that at all. And this form of the music was something completely new. So it could happen that I was on the Balkan Beats events in Amsterdam, in Milky Way.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
With the
yeah.
full crowd of the young, mostly Dutch public,
Yeah,
dancing on the Balkan traditional music. It was surreal.
yeah. Okay.
And at that moment, I wanted to make the film about it, but I couldn't find the real film behind the music, because the music is very nice subject for the film, but I didn't see a lot of good documentary films about the music.
Okay. So you thought, let me start and make this myself, or
Yeah, and after years and years, I had contact with Robert. I knew him from these early days of Balkan Beats. He spoke 5 years ago about Balkan Beats and about the coming of new migrants and his idea to involve the music of new migrants in his music. And then I thought maybe is that way to make the film about Balkan Beats, but the film is
yeah, but it's
about
bigger
also
than
other things.
only the Balkan Beats.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Robert, you are described as the founder, together with Uros Petkovic, if I'm getting that correctly, of the Balkan Beats. How would you describe that specific type of music? If you could only use one word. I know that's a hard question, but maybe
One word would be lively.
lively. Right.
Lively, yes. If you are asking me to put it in one word, it's definitely lively. But there is much more to it to be said.
Yeah. Okay. Would you agree that it's lively?
If Robert said that, because if somebody can speak about Balkan Beats, then he invented the name, and he was the first who recognized the form behind the music. What was very interesting in these years, and I'm talking about 2005 or 6, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, then happened that in the many cities, or even on other continents, there were bands. Some of them had Balkan roots, started to mix music, Balkan music, with pop, rock, dance. I know that one friend of us, he as a refugee from Sarajevo, he came to Seattle, Gino Jevđević from the band Culture Shock. He said, when I came to Seattle, I came in Seattle in the best years of the grunge music. And in the crowd, there were musicians from Pearl Jam, from Nirvana, listening to my music. And in the first days, I was playing the rock music.
Yeah.
And you know, after
And the rock music, meaning the traditional
real
Balkan
rock, rock music, real traditional rock music,
Okay.
without any influence of the Balkan. And he said, but after a few gigs, the people were not more interested in
Yeah.
that kind of music, because they listened to that kind of music for years and years.
Yeah.
And one night, the guitar player started almost in frustration to play the gypsy
music.
tune.
Yes.
And
All right.
after the days, the people from the crowd started to watch us and the band. and the cheering. What kind of music is it?
Oh yeah. So you were surprised by the popularity it had in what we call the West and Europe and America as well.
Even of the impact of that music, and that is also what I recognized in Robert, his story, because he didn't play his music in the first days for the German public.
Can you tell me something about that, Robert? Because you came at a very young age to Berlin. Why did you do that, and what were you hoping to find? And can you also walk us through your career as a disc jockey and how that went?
I happened to come to Berlin more or less by coincidence, exactly on the 3rd October 1990, which was the Unity Day.
Yeah.
Which is not such a big deal, but it helps me to always know how long exactly. It's a great reminder. And as a young man, I was doing different things, have become a cab driver, and started hanging out with young people coming from Yugoslavia, let's say refugees at that time. And we started gathering in a bar, in a very punky bar in Berlin-Kreuzberg, very, how to say, anarchist-styled bar. And I saw that a lot of different people are playing their music back then, even from cassettes and LPs. And I thought, okay, let me try to do the same. And I started then also entertaining my people, whatever it means, young Bosnians, mostly Croats and Serbs, by playing old Yugoslav rock hits, more or less, punk rock, etc. We had quite a big scene back in time. And what happened to me is more or less by coincidence that I dared to cross the border again, but this time culturally, and play certain tunes from Goran Bregovic, like Kalashnikov, Bubamara, etc. And what I saw was just flabbergasting. It was like seeing Yugos, but also the German crowd, which would be coming around to this bar, going crazy to this. Like, okay, something's interesting here. It was in the 90s, mid-90s. I started being a DJ in 1993 and gradually developing and refining my musical taste, only to come to the 80s, speak to the 0 years, the year 2000, where I was like, as a cab driver sitting in my cab listening to a radio program here in Berlin called Electro Beats. Like, how do I label my activity? And well, it was just given Balkan Beats. So this is what I invented. I didn't invent Balkan Beats itself. I invented just the name. And by doing so, I guess I give a name to a whole genre, coincidentally.
Yeah, to a genre, what was happening already.
Exactly. And somehow I triggered what I did actually is I've been persistent in playing ever more of these traditional tunes which are rooted in Oriental music, in Jewish music, in many different musical styles from far away.
And with far away, do you mean places where a lot of migrants who settle in Europe come from? Do you mean that by
Also,
far away? Yes.
Well, at that time, if you speak about 90s, I knew only Berlin. It was my world, and the Yugoslavs coming to settle in this town. And we have to understand, I was 20-something at that time. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know anything about cultures, etc. I grew up in a radio culture of Bosnia, which was mostly playing hits, etc. And then I discovered the beauty of these Oriental sounds mostly, and also Jewish music. When you play them, you get something else happens.
What is that something else? Can you describe it, maybe?
This atmosphere, I mean, the certain sensibility is being unleashed. What was for me shocking and at the same time making me happy and proud is when I played these tunes from Goran Bregovic at that time, from Farid Čokarlija, later Emir Kusturica's music, to see the Germans embrace it and follow it, or Germans or whoever was around and not the Yugoslav, would follow it immediately without questioning it. And that was for me somehow a big riddle, like, wow, we are good. We are, because we all foreigners always have a little bit of of how to say, you feel always a little bit guilty that you are here.
Yeah, or
Why?
maybe
Because
that you have to
for
prove
someone else.
yourself.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
somehow should prove that you also have certain value. And
Yeah.
this music has proven it to some extent. And that was what made me happy and proud and made me persistent to keep doing it. And
Yeah.
this is what I.
And speaking of that persistence, I like the scene where you say, describing your cab driver, and then also you say you have two kinds of cab drivers. You have the one that's silently waving and the hunter. What do you think your hunter side says about you and the success you have gained as in your career as a disc jockey?
It was definitely, nowadays, in retrospective, I could say it was a backbone of my willpower.
Yeah.
This hunting instinct was also something I applied in the musical career. You know, I would then keep looking for new sounds, collecting them and representing them bravely, because you have to know it's not that easy to go in front of people, unknown crowd, and try to entertain them with stuff
They don't know, or they not
they probably
grow up
won't know
with.
what they
Yeah.
meant. So it's always a little bit of an experiment.
Yeah.
Back to your question, hunter. Yeah, I was, as a cab driver, also hunter, because I was bored sitting on the airport or a train station. I loved to drive and cruise with my big Mercedes with music through the city of Berlin and chase my clients.
So you were a cab DJ also as a driver, and then I get it. And also you to speak about that the peak of the Balkan Beats was in 2010. Sergej, can you say something about why you think that was, and has it slowed down a bit with that peak in popularity?
I guess it was in the years 2006, 7, 8, 9, 2010 was maybe already decline of the popularity of the Balkan Beats. Why it was popular? I believe because, as Robert said, he came at the right moment in the right place, at the time when the Berlin Wall was fall down, and that was some kind of curiosity for both sides, for each other. From one side, migrants, refugees from Yugoslavia and other East European countries were very curious about how is it going here in the West. And West was also curious about the culture of Eastern Europe. Because that music that Robert used in the Balkan Beats is that it's, on the Balkan itself is laying on the street. There's nothing new. And that kind of curiosity for both sides was very interesting in the film, but also for me in the context of the film. And at the same time, as Robert said, that kind of music has some kind of crazy energy. You know, in the first minutes of the film, you can see people dancing in the Lido club. That's the most famous Balkan Beats spot in Berlin. And that kind of dancing is not with nice the moves to be cool, as most of the dance styles are. It's just getting mad. And this music...
Are the old songs made for that, do you think? Because we also see clips from old music that you used in the movie. What are those songs about? Like if you're not speaking the language, you don't know, but you somehow feel, you say.
That's that energy, and the energy of the music, of the Balkan music, gives you, I would say, the mandate, alibi, to go mad.
Yeah.
And I believe that was the charm of the Balkan Beats. And
it was something new, and something
new.
to give all your feelings to.
And also from the both sides, that charm from where one side see in another side. Because I'm talking about us from the Balkans, we like this kind of structure that West has, the order. It's nice in some way, because we are already tired of the madness and chaos of the Balkans. Yeah. But West is also in love with that kind of madness and chaos.
Because everything is so structured in order. Yeah, okay, great.
That's my interpretation, at least.
Yeah, do you agree?
Sure, yeah, this is one of the definitions. I would love to mention on this position one interesting thing. At least I truly believe in that. in the beginning of the 90s, we had this horrible conflict down there in former Yugoslavian Republic,
Yeah.
fighting each other, war, crime,
Yeah, of course, we know, especially in Holland, we have
etc.,
also a great
Exactly.
part in that. Don't get, we're not getting political, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I just want no. I just have to mention it
Yeah.
in order to do another thing.
Yeah.
So we when I say we means Balkans, former Yugoslavs.
Yeah.
We were depicted in the West and in the world as a no-go zone, as something bad, eating small children. We are bad guys.
Yeah.
This is how it was. By doing so, the media created a sort of a placeholder, a Platzhalter in German, for another phenomenon to happen. It was like a sort of a yo-yo effect. You know, on one hand, you have on a daily basis in news, Balkan this, Balkan that, bad, 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 bad. And then at the same time, something really sexy and lively is happening.
Yeah.
And the more, how to say, bad news you get, the more you are interested in another part. And I think this is where we profited out of war.
Yeah.
This is one thing which should be mentioned. Of course, it's not a determining factor for the prominence, let me say, of the Balkan music at some point. Definitely it is lively, it unleashes energies, and it brings this unknown territory with itself, with this oriental, and not only oriental, to some extent misogynist mentality, let me go crazy. If you are not crazy, you are not normal. This is what...
Yeah, but thank you for that addition. Also describing the greater analyze that you made and the human nature that you long for or are curious about something that you cannot go to. That's a very nice add to this conversation. Also, Robert, we see you go back in the film to Bosnia, to your roots, and you're now at a point in your career where you say, okay, I want to help and scout really young, talented people. You're really like a mentor for them. What kind of mentor would you like to be?
Well, I would love to make new translations. You know, you have new, I don't know if it's new, but these other different musical frequencies coming from afar.
Yeah.
And I would love to be someone who is able to translate it by collaborating with these new people in Europe and extracting certain sensibilities from their musical culture into something new, whatever it is. Right now, I'm working on this literally by using certain programs, by taking snippets of different songs and incorporating them into the sounds I'm creating with my partners to see what is going to happen. That would be my desire, to somehow give it a new dimension, if it's possible. Maybe it's fetched from too far now, what I'm having in mind, but this is what I would love to. And as a mentor, yeah, these people are young, like I was back then. I'm already settled in Berlin. I'm 50, I have a little studio, I have connections and certain know-how. So this is where I can definitely help to establish something.
Yeah, because you have experienced what they are experiencing now and can help them get through that.
I believe so, at least.
Yeah, I believe so too. What do you think about that? Because you filmed also the young people with him, also the boy in Bosnia that you made a rap for. What were your thoughts about that? He doing that and seeing the young people having like a trust person.
But that was a beautiful and bizarre moment. Actually, Robert went to Bosnia to the band that is living on the border, exactly on the border between Bosnia and Croatia, and that's now the border of European Union. Yeah. And they made the song with refugees because that's the last place where they try, the last base before they try to reach Europe.
Yeah.
And we have been there in the refugee camp, and the band wanted to play that song for the refugees, and some of the refugees, of migrants, were involved in the song. And during the event, we have been filming. Robert was recording, and the next morning, I saw on the picture in my material, the young man taking the microphone and rapping in some strange language and beatboxing. And I asked the members of the Bosnian band, who is this guy?
Yeah.
They didn't know him. He just grabbed the microphone and started singing. And the next day we went to the refugee camp to looking for this young man.
Yeah.
And we found him there, and he was there in that area because a lot of the migrants there use the rails, the train rails.
Yeah, why? Why is that?
Because
the train rails we're talking about. Yeah.
Because there is almost no train traffic in that part of the Bosnia, so it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
And they use the rails because they know exactly where they are going.
So they know if I use, I'm going up.
At some point, I will be
north.
there in that city, and that's the most secure way for them, for some of them, to travel. And of course, this picture is for them pretty normal, but we have been very confronted with that kind of picture. It's almost some kind of parallel dimension.
Yeah, what is happening? You mean for us in Holland, the images that are happening there, like your partner says in the documentary, I think, Robert, she describes this what you're saying as they have skills that we lost. What do you think that? Do you know what I'm talking about now, Robert? What I mean?
I guess so. Yeah.
She says like the refugees there have some skills that we have lost, and they dare to do things we don't dare, like the boy you said describing the mic. What do you think that adds to a character of a new talent? Like what kind of skills do you get if you're that? If you're facing that, it's a question to you both.
If I may say, for me, was it almost the repeating what Robert said in the beginning of the film.
About his own...
About being the cab driver who is hunter, eager, that survival skills and the power that...
Surviving skills, bravo, exactly. This is exactly what I wanted to say. It's a surviving instinct. They still somehow keep more alive than we in the West do, because we're
comfortable.
Surrounded. They are just like, when you are in that state, you have to fight all the time. You never know what the morning is going to bring to you. And this is what Hannah is my partner who mentioned it very well, and rightly so, that they still have this intensely living in them. And I think also in the musical production, cultural expression, you can make something out of it.
Yeah. But that's it. And seeing that boy there beside the rails, rapping something in Farsi about his trip. Later on, we translated the text, and it was really touching. And talking with him about his trip, and he told us, and you can see that the scene in the film, for almost 18 months to achieve the goal. And Robert asked him, what is your goal? What is your dream? To have the small room, a small studio where I can make the songs.
Yeah.
It's almost crazy. It's the whole trip to achieve something that, again, for us, even for Robert and for me, for former refugees, is it something behind
your
ratio,
imagination or something, because it took him 18 months, like walking also, what you say.
And that's for me actually the essence. It's we are talking here in the West in the last years about cultural clashes. That's the clash for me, much more important clash between realities. That is his reality, and if we are looking at his reality, for us is that.
Like a film or a dream, like
dreams,
you described?
Surrealistic, that you can name it, but that's the drama of this world at this moment, I guess, because there are realities, they are not matching with each other. Yeah.
And there are realities maybe that we also, if I can speak for a lot of people, deny that is happening. How is he now? Do you know something about? Are you still in contact? Just a curious question.
Robert, do you want to say about you finished the song, I guess?
Ferdo's fascinatingly finally managed to make it to Germany. He spent a couple of days in Berlin and was sent back to Bavaria, nearby Munich, after walking literally 18 months from Herat in Afghanistan to hear where he is. He's gotten asylum status.
Yeah.
I think it's called like that.
Yeah.
And he is doing well. I mean, we did a new video clip with him on distance, of course.
Yes.
But somehow he's doing well, has a girlfriend, and starts his life, starts establishing himself in
Yeah.
this society, in the German society in that case.
What does
It's
it
fine.
do to you to see that he is finding his way?
Gives hope. It gives hope, you know. It really gives hope. Like,
Yeah.
okay, look how life is. It's hard, and it's good, and it's again hard.
Yeah.
Up and down.
Yeah. Also, you speak at one point in a movie about Berlin being every migrant's dream. Why is that? What specific things in that city is so nice or fine for refugees?
I guess it's media which made Berlin into a sort of a Disneyland. I mean, Berlin is a great city, indisputably.
Yeah.
Indisputably. Really a great place to be and to live, just what I'm saying for 30 years now. But I think it's in the media. Berlin is very present and very cool, you know, and it is cool. I mean, it's poor and sexy, as our mayor
Poor and
used to
sexy.
say.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very
Yeah.
famous proverb of our mayor. Yeah, and young people love this. You know, I mean, young people are not necessarily, or most of them, into building a big house and saving a lot of money, but they're rather into taking drugs and having fun.
Oh, then Berlin is the place to go.
This is the place to go. Not only Amsterdam.
No, I would say not only Amsterdam. No, I think Berlin is of course a bigger city, but also maybe a really cultural city with a lot
It is
of
very,
different. Yeah, and
It
also
offers possibilities for cultural expression. It's really very mixed. I don't know how many nations we have here, 150 at least.
Yeah.
And the artistic, how to say, values are really appreciated, somehow really appreciated. I know, I mean, there is space for them. It's a city for the artists.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
those young people who are into music, etc., see Berlin as the destination to be.
Yeah, as an artist, that's really right. I think that's. Do you also agree? For me, like Berlin is indeed the city of artists and.
I like that city. You know, after the fall of Berlin Wall, you can feel the energy of the city, enjoying the freedom, enjoying the possibilities.
Does Berlin also have, because it's, for me, I don't know if you agree, but the most European city who was Western, but also has that Eastern vibe. Do you know what I mean?
I guess so.
When I
yeah.
say that, maybe because of the wall and how the rest of Europe looks at Germany and Berlin.
I like that the parallel between Berlin as a city exactly as you describe it, and especially Kreuzberg. That's the part of the city where Robert is living, and some people call it the Turkish part of the Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
They are almost, the last information that I get was more than 180 nations living in the Kreuzberg.
Yeah.
But it's also cannot be coincidence that Robert and the Balkan Beats are
Centered.
Just there.
Yeah.
And especially in the context of the film, I like that bizarre multicultural setting of Berlin. Even his little home, he's sitting there living with his partner, with Hannah, speaking 5 languages.
Yeah. Talking about cultural mixing, you have done that.
Yeah, this is one of the strongest scenes. It seems so small, and in some way isn't small, but that's the big one. Robert is really important. But Robert is discussing with Hannah with all love for their little daughter, Yasmin, because Robert speaks German and Bosnian, and Hannah speaks French and Arabic, and they communicate with each other in English. And the question is, what language you have to learn this small brain?
What can we learn if we look at your daughter, like a child, like for her it's so normal that she has all those cultures, and we as people maybe think like, oh, it's not, that's not possible. Like, what can we learn from that?
Let me say from my abstract analytic way of the film director Robert can tell you more about the reality. For me, is that also the essence of living now in this Europe, in this society, where you are confronted with so many languages, cultural languages, literal languages, and the question is how to deal with it, how to find a way to communicate. And if you think of the possibilities, if we can communicate, because this little girl can speak 5 languages in the age of 5, she is a Superman. But it's not easy. And it's not easy to communicate in the family with 5 languages. It's not easy to communicate in a band, on the bandstand with musicians from 6, 7 different countries. But there is a lot of potential. What we're going to do with the languages and communication and potential, that's the question. But it's definitely something very interesting.
It is. And you, Robert, what's the reality of...
I agree with Sergej on this. It's very fascinating. And what I have been taught now, since I have a little daughter and this multiculti family, multilingual family, is that, okay, seeing it from outside, it seems to be like a big mystery. At the same time, when you are involved in this and you live it actively every day, you understand that for a little brain like my daughter's brain, Yasmin, it's not a big deal to deal with that. She is easily taking 3 to 4 languages, and an interesting thing happened. Me and Hannah, we used to speak English to each other. But she is insisting on Arabic and French because she grew up in France. I'm from Bosnia. And we never wanted to impose English on her. Why? Because we thought, okay, she's going to learn it anyway. Let's push the other languages. And we realized, okay, this is a language we can use when we want to say, if we want to say something we don't want her to understand. No, this is not how it works.
She does understand.
She does understand without us ever pushing it. So it's...
there is no secret language.
For you, There's no such thing.
Always to say, this is doable. This is really doable. This is not a big deal. And I think this is the future and this is the reality. Thanks to internet and then the faster traveling, etc., speaking 3 languages at home will be a standard, default.
I totally agree.
I think so.
Yeah, it will be standard. I totally agree. You call your music, Robert, as cultural recycling. We have talked about, like what we just talked about. What do you mean with that, cultural recycling? Is it what you just said, or?
Sort of like, yeah. I mean, back in time, before I started using the name Balkan Beats, I used the name cultural recycling. Why? Because back to 90s, back to the war games, we came from a socialistic society. We had quite a few public holidays which stopped to be used anymore, which is Day of Republic, Day of what was the Day of
Labor,
Tito's birthday, of Day of Youth, bravo, and Day of Women's Day, which is still somehow being celebrated. And I thought, like, okay, you know what? Nobody wants to use this anymore. Let us use it. Us young Yugo punks. Let's celebrate now Tito's birthday. Nobody's going to do it anymore. And I thought that
how do you celebrate that?
well, how do you celebrate? We made parties on that very day. You know, we would then, back then, and we are talking about 90s, we didn't really use internet. We would produce some posters, call it Day of Youth, and people would be massively coming. I mean, for us, getting 500 people together to one place was like, wow, this is how Balkan Beats actually started, out of this energy, you know. And this is culture recycling. On the other hand, culture recycling is also what we still do, is taking parts of other culture and mixing them with another one.
Yeah, like you do with the young talents, like you mix the Arabic singer with the Greek singer. Yeah, do they also still work together? The people that we saw in the movie, the young girl and the boy from Syria.
If they work together, I don't know exactly what you mean. They are around. I don't know really what they do right now, but there is a lot of young Arabs here. There is a whole scene. Like, of course, now COVID situation has stopped everything.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But a lot of them are still active and do things. It's really fascinating how many stuff they produce and have to say.
Yeah, all right, Great. I think I've come to the last question already. What do you think the next generation will do? What are your hopes or thoughts about mixing music culturally?
I believe that it's not just a matter of mixing music, but actually what Robert is doing, cultural recycling. That's what I liked and what I use in the film. The whole film is also some kind of mix, trying to follow Robert in his mixing not only music but even some scenes in the film, the using of old Yugoslav movies,
Yes,
sentences.
at the bridge.
Also, because if we are communicate, Robert and me, he can say something and I know exactly that's not just a sentence, it's just a one-liner from some of the films. Because in that scene when we came, this bizarre Balkan situation, we were driving and at some point we came to the bridge and it was so small bridge.
Did you drive? You didn't drive over, right?
No, it's not possible to pass other other men there, and he stepped there out, and I said to cameraman, just go with shooting, and Robert was standing there on the bridge, and he, do you want me to pass this bridge? And that was the sentence from one of these films.
Oh, so you said that as a joke, and you were like, okay, let me use
and
that.
for me, was that more than just a joke? That was how his brain is working.
Yeah.
Constantly using the
old things,
putting in the new context. Same with the music. And back to your question, what is the future of this continent of the new generations? I believe that we cannot do other than just mix and be prepared to mix all different cultural influences.
So go with the time as well?
Exactly, because if we are talking about the culture of identity of Europe, if you ask me what was the identity of Europe in the 1940s, something completely different than 1960s with rock and roll music, with hippie generation, etc. In the 80s with, I don't know, the punk and hip hop influences, and now in the beginning of 21st century with Balkan Beats also. And I will finish with your words, Robert. He said in one moment when we were filming somewhere and being confronted with all these changes in Europe and Berlin, he said, actually, everything is changing around us, and Europe and Berlin and Balkan Beats and my life. And the question is not, do you like the changes, but how to deal with it.
Yeah, because that's a fact.
That's the fact.
Yeah, great. Nice. Do you want to add some last words, Robert?
I'm really happy that we made this movie. It was also a pleasure to take part in production. And back to your question, what is going to happen? I mean, this mixing procedure it's inevitable. We have internet, means faster exchange of informations, and we have fast traveling nowadays. And the human curiosity and need to move from A to B.
Here we move.
Exactly. I see this, what we do now is just pioneering something what's going to be normal in a couple of decades already, not to mention centuries. This big mixing dynamic of Europe and world, and that will be normal. That's why I think the right-wingish opinions do not count anymore. You can't close your tribe and say, no, we are what we are, we don't mix, etc. It's just not possible. That's why we should rather focus on what do we do out of it? How do we do it now?
Yeah, how do you deal with that? Great, thank you for your time and for your great answers and for this conversation. Thanks, Robert, for being in.
Dank je wel.
Jij bedankt.